Well, welcome in, guys, and welcome back to another edition of Blade Talk with Scab and Joe. We got a special edition. Welcome everybody in the room. Listen, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Scab. My channel name is Choir Boys Cutlery Outdoors, and my partner I'll bring on in 1 second. Listen, I do knives. Joe does swords. We've got a lot of similarities, a lot of differences. The one thing we do agree on passionately is this: veterans causes, and all you guys in the room knows this. Okay, so here's the thing: there was a time in this country where 22 veterans a day took their own lives. Now stats show that number's going down. However, anything above zero is unacceptable. So vets, we love you. You have a place here and you are welcome on both of our channels. That being said, guys, we're really excited about this. I'm going to bring my brother from another mother in. Joseph, come join us so you can announce our special guest.
What's up, Scab, and welcome everybody to Blade Talk. Happy to see everybody in the room. We got a packed room going on. Welcome everybody. So, Medford knives. As you guys know, I kicked off a Medford knife series. So I have pretty much. I mean, you can't see it, but I got probably about. I think I probably got about 18 Medford knives surrounding me right now. So I figured, what wouldn't be better than basically getting Greg Medford in. So let's talk about his knives. Let's talk about Medford. Let's talk about what makes these knives great, because I am a big fan of Medford now that I kind of had my hands on them, been using them. I am just ecstatic about them. So reach out to Greg. He agreed to come on. Very happy about it. And so we're going to talk about Medford. We're going to get into Greg's views of his knives and what makes them fantastic. And without further ado, let's bring Greg Medford into the room. Where are you, buddy? There you go.
Boom.
There you go.
Boom. What's happening?
Welcome, buddy. Thanks for joining us. Really
welcome
appreciate
in.
You coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Greg, now that we got here, we can jump on you. No, listen, do me a favor. Thank you, number one, for coming in. Thank you so much. For the few that wouldn't know what you're about, give us a little background on your company, what you do, and who you are, please.
Okay. I started the company 12 years ago. I was kind of reinventing myself when the economy crashed in 08, 09. Arizona got hit really hard. I was an air show pilot at the time. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I was in the first Gulf War. I was in the infantry. I carried an M249 squad automatic weapon. I had a lifetime of collecting. Really, I was into samurai swords, and I used to collect. When I was a kid, there was a lot of World War II swords that you could find them all over the place around New England and New York when I was a kid. So I went around door knocking and used to collect Japanese swords and clear out people's attics and basements. And I had a contact, and I would send the swords to Tokyo, and we would repatriate them to families they came from. I kept some for myself. I studied Iaido and was into all things. I'm a total Nipponophile. Was into all things Japanese for a long, long time. And I just had a love for swords and cutlery and knives. I went off in the Marine Corps. I went off on my only deployment to the Middle East, and I had a SOG buoy and I had a K-bar. And my grandfather died while my cowboy grandfather died while I was on deployment. I sent home my K-bar to go in the coffin instead of flying halfway around the world. So knives have always kind of been a part of my life. And I never was a pocket knife carrier. I carried fixed blades when I needed them, and I always had knives, but I wasn't really a pocket knife carrier. And I believe it or not, Brad Pitt and Lieutenant Aldo Rain from Inglourious Bastards, when he said, you know how you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. And he cut that swastika in that Nazi's forehead. That something about that moment, it was hitting me at a time in my life where I was kind of at a redefining crossroads moment. And I started calling around, like, where can I get that knife? Where can I get that knife? Oh, I'll make it for you for $5,000. Oh, I'll make it for you for $7,500. And I said, well, I build airplanes, man. I can make a knife. So that's awesome. I drew some pictures. I've been trying to figure out who I wanted to be when I grew up. You know, like I was 40 years old. I had 2 young kids. I was married. And I had one of these, is this as good as it gets moment? You know what I mean? We all have these changes in our life where we enter a new phase. And everything that I had done in my entire life kind of led up to that crossroads moment. And then I just said, well, I want to make knives, but I want to make really cool knives that guys in my unit would like. And I drew some pictures, invited some guys over. Everybody liked a different knife. I said, I'm going in the knife business. And they said, you're out of your goddamn mind. And I rented a building the next day. I bought a grinder the next day. I rented a building the day after. I basically was the last guy, besides 2 retired dudes on my street, who had not given his house back to the bank. And I had made all my payments. And it was my last. I had a bunch of airplanes. I had sold the airplanes at top of market. I had run through all my cash, and I was officially going to be a broke dick. I wasn't going to be able to pay my mortgage. I mean, I've never not paid a bill in my life. And in that moment, I asked an old man to rent me a space in his building, and I told him I had no money to pay him. And he kicked the ground, and he said, oh, my wife is going to kill me. I really like you, kid. And he said, all right, you can have the building. And I started making knives, and 2 weeks in, a guy walked in and bought everything I had with cash. And I called up the landlord and I said, hey man, you better come down here. I got the rent. So he was down at the building in about 5 minutes. And he said, oh, I'm so happy. Oh my God. My wife's been ragging on my ass, and I'm going to just throw this money at her, and she's just going to have to eat crow. So it was kind of fun. And then I called up Amy, my wife at the time, and I said, Amy, I got the money for the mortgage. We're going to be okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's kind of how it got started. And then, I kind of didn't have a beer fart in a windstorm idea what I was doing. I had learned how to make knives recently, and I was making a simple kind of knife. And what happened was people just started coming through the door saying, hey, I heard there was a guy over here making knives. They just wanted to see it. And then they were like, well, do you have any more? I'm like, no, I made 22. I thought I wouldn't sell them this year. They're all gone. And so there were so many people who were so gracious helping me get going. And all of a sudden I sold 10,000 knives. I mean, it did happen pretty fast. And I shit myself. I was like, oh my God.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you were talking my language.
Let me ask you this. I was going to say, Joe, I think just fell in love with you all over again with the swords. That's awesome. Can
I tell you something? I'll tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
So I want to give a shout out to an old man who helped me start making knives. His name was Tom McGinnis. He ran a company, a little knife school called Ozark Knife Makers in Ozark, Missouri. And I called up. I said, hey, Tom, my name's Greg Medford. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I'd like to come out and learn how to grind. The folks at Burnt King gave you your name and number. Well, I don't really have a class going, Greg. And I said, well, that's great, because I just want a private. Man, I really don't do private classes, Greg. And I said, well, that's no problem. What do you normally make in a class? And he told me, I said, well, why don't I just give you that number, and I'm just going to come get private instruction. How's that? Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, Greg. You're a fast-talking Yankee. He just was so funny. Well, he let me go out there, and about 2 hours into grinding on my first day, he and his brother James were helping me. And he has recently passed away, so God rest his soul. I always gave him, he just loved me. I was like a son that made good. He said, well, what do you want to do with this knife making thing for, Greg? Because he made like all this frontier kind of buoys and leather stuff. You know what I mean? I said, well, I want to be the biggest, coolest tactical knife company in the world. That's what I'm going to do. And he was like, they all laughed at me, By the 3rd year, they were asking me to come back and teach a class. And by the 4th year, they had a poster of me up on the wall. They were like, Greg's our local boy, made good, But we were grinding for about 2 hours, and they were standing there scratching their heads. And they said, well, what? God damn it, he's kind of a natural knife maker. Look at him grind. And then Tom, he comes walking out with late 1780s, 1790s katana and says, "Hey, Greg, somebody gave me this. They asked me to regrind the tip, and I can't see it that well. Would you do it?" And so I'm like, on my third hour grinding knives, the guy hands me like a $6,000 sword, and I'm like, whoa. So it just took off from there. We made Damascus and made tomahawks and just had a great time for 5 days. And I came back and I was in business making knives. I had an oven, one grinder, and I did everything by hand.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So do you have any of those originals? Did you keep one? Did you just sell everything?
Do. Funny you should ask. Would you like to see one?
Oh,
Can we see it?
So
Please.
I got 10 feet to walk over to my little side table, and I'll grab it and bring it back. Hold on.
Cool.
You're good, and we'll spell hello to people in the chat. Dabney, how are you? Jerbs, man, thank you for your work. Freedom Frog Gear, DJ. Shane Gables is in the house. Charles, who did his first video today. Timbo, good to see you guys. Let's see what we got here.
So I said, I want to do this. And now, remind you, these guys were doing like bone handle and abalone, and they were making these fucking tomahawks you could smoke peace pipes out of. I mean, they were really into all this like frontier leather clothing stuff. So I come in there and I'm like, whoa, I want to make tactical knives. They were all kind of like, who wants those? And so this was the first knife I made. I actually made it out of a leaf spring. It's my very first knife, my very first day ever making knives.
Wow.
I'll show you the other side.
That's pretty badass, man.
That's your first knife?
Yeah.
First knife you made? Seriously? Wow. No shit.
So the guy says to me, he goes, they watched me make it. Oh, damn, he's kind of a natural knife maker. Now, I didn't know at the time. I thought everybody could just step up to a grinder and make a knife. I was like, oh, all right, cool. I can do this.
Yeah,
and
no,
as it turns out, it's a little harder than that. But I was, I had shaped a lot of aluminum and built a lot of airplanes by hand. I had Russian aircraft and Chinese aircraft, and I had done a lot of fabrication by hand of parts. So I had good sense of material with an engineering background and handcrafting, and it just kind of came natural to me. And I was just lucky, God gift,
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's God given. That if that's your first knife, that's. Let me ask you this real quick. What? Because there's a guy in the comments, Captain Electro has a channel. He just got him a forge. What would you get? What advice would you give trying to get into knife making?
Oh boy. Well, what I would say is don't look at knives for at least a year or two. Like it is fucking possible because here's the thing. If you see my knives at a show from across the room, it's my knives. Like mine look different than everybody's. Yeah. I don't look at anybody's stuff, and a lot of people make lovely knives. Okay, they just don't speak to me. So I wanted to make stuff that I loved, and I've always liked cool shit, and people have always liked the shit that I like. So I said, well, I'm just gonna make cool stuff I like, and if people buy it, cool, and if they don't, I'll get some other job. So the hardest part about being a knife maker is that it's an ancient tool, and it's hard to make it unique, and it's hard to make it unique without it being silly. Mm-hmm. So that means you have to find some original zeitgeist to your design. You've got to find your own spirit, and you can't do that looking at other people's stuff. Stephen King was asked, how do you write so many novels? He goes, I get up in the morning at 8 o'clock and I write all day long. And a lot of it's junk and some of it's gold. And the thing about knife making is you got to draw a lot of pictures. You got to approach, like I teach a class on how to design knives, okay? And I always tell guys, until you're an experienced knife maker, like right now, I can sit down. Today I sat down and drew this knife. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, you see it fine.
Yeah, there.
Okay, for me, it's a brand new of a certain thing. I can sit down and draw a knife anytime, anywhere. I've done it a bunch of times, okay? The thing is, until you have done that exercise a bunch of times, I recommend people always have purpose driven to what they think about. So function over form. Don't worry about how it looks. Think about what it's going to be used for as a tool, and try to make the tool that you sense would work for you, and solve a little problem. If you solve a problem with knife making, a lot of times it gets original. So that's a little bit of my advice. But the hardest thing is to be original.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Let me ask you this. As far as the process goes, what was the hardest thing for you? What was the hardest thing to get right? What was the hardest, obviously not much because you're killing it, but what right up front, what worried you the most, I guess, would be the proper question.
Well, I mean, the truth is the hardest thing is, Chris Reeve said something to me years ago in Germany. We were standing next to each other, and he said, Greg, to make one knife, it's not hard. To make 10 knives the same, starts getting difficult. But to make 1,000 knives the same, damn near fucking impossible. And it's true. Repeatability, consistency, that's really, really hard. Making one knife, honestly, for all the guys that make super swanky knives, like really cool, honestly, not that hard. Just time consuming, but it's not that hard. Make 10 of them exactly the same where the parts are interchangeable. Holy shit, different animal. Right. So to go to try and, like, my knives, I have a standard, an expectation that's very different than everybody in the business. Everyone says my knives sound different. I'm not arrogant about this. I'm just telling you kind of my brain, how my brain works. But if you hear people say, oh, it's got that Medford sound. Oh, it's got that Medford feel. Well, we don't make holes to plus or minus size. We make them undersized and we lap them all to size, which means they're perfectly fitted almost always. And what that gets you is a chassis with this moving thing in it that are so closely in communion with one another that when they lock out, it feels like a fixed blade. Yeah. It doesn't wiggle and talk to your hand like a folder. Right. So that's my thing, man. A crazy tolerance. So we make, and guys say, oh, he just uses titanium slabs and he just uses S35, rah, rah, rah. It's not about that, man. It's about fitting it all together. You get the best parts for a race car and you put them all together and you got zero. You get the best parts for a race. You get mediocre parts together and you get a master builder who knows how to tune and time the vehicle. You can win races with it. So it's like that. It's all about the tuning and how much time, energy, and effort it takes on every knife we make. 1 hour to lap it together the first time. It's a perfect. Everything's ready. It's awesome. It takes 1 hour to lap off the micro, oversize, or undersize so that it fits perfectly and mate up all the surfaces. And that's what gives it that kind of hydraulic feel, that snap, that ping, that crack that it gets. Right. That's where you get that from.
Right.
That's what I was sitting here playing with this one. Yeah. I mean,
they do have a sound, though.
It feels different.
Yeah.
It has that sound. Let's get into the steel, if you don't mind. What's your favorite steel to work with? And we'll go from there, but you got one?
Well, I'm kind of all right. So listen, I'm kind of a polarizing guy because I say what's on my mind in a world where people are used to being sold a line of bullshit at every turn. And I don't care what party, I don't care what state, everyone's being sold a bunch of bullshit. Every problem in this country is so easily solved, and we collectively, the leadership class has its head up its ass. It's the same in business in a lot of ways. So steel companies are always competing with themselves, with their previous products, and with a few competitors. And they got to come up with some sizzle. They got to sell some sizzle. Yeah. And knife companies that have what I call stewardship leadership. So these are the big companies that have been around a long time. Those companies don't generally have the original creator running them. They don't have the original creativity running them. They're just companies. So what do you sell when you don't have any good ideas? Honestly, what do you sell when you don't have any good ideas in the knife business? Tell them it's fucking unobtainium. Tell them it's kryptonite.
Right.
There's a lot of bullshit there's a lot of bullshit in knife in steel land. The truth is, and nobody looks at the beginning of the curve. They're all comparing this little top part of the curve. The performance on these steels are fantastic. They're better than almost everybody needs. We can break every knife made. What do you want your knife to do? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Every knife is breakable. It doesn't matter. I've never seen a steel. I mean, I can break a MagnaCut knife, no problem. So my question to everybody is, there's a lot of ado about nothing. The most thing I love, my favorite steels are the ones that heat treat very, very predictably. And that's not all steels. But we're pretty good at it because we do our own heat treating. My favorite steel for when I got started was D2. And it was because it was so consistent and I was new at knife making. And there was no constraints on getting it. I could get it immediately. Then I moved to S35 and CPM 3V. And when I went to S35, S90, S30, I got used to heat treating that family of stainless steel. And 3V is not stainless, but I was doing it at the same time and it heat treated about the same way. And very, very predictable. And there has been classic paradigms. The harder you make something, the more brittle it becomes. So it's always been balancing hardness, toughness, abrasion, and corrosion resistance. We try to balance that all of those requirements that a knife person wants from their knife, right? Those traits.
Right.
And then what happened, a new steel popped up. So Laren, I think his last name's Thomas, who came up with MagnaCut. He's the son of a knife maker. He is into metallurgy. And I got to tell you, knife makers are generally not high-level metallurgists. None of us got into knife making because we're nerds about melting carbon in and the formation of vanadium carbides. We didn't get into knives for that. We get into knives because we like cutting stuff. We like knives. And something about a knife feels powerful and speaks to an ancient thing in us, and we like it. I don't know any knife maker who got into knife making to nerd out on metallurgy.
Right.
What happens is, just like a race car driver, you like racing cars, but you learn some stuff about tires while you're racing, right? So it's the same thing with steel. You end up learning some. Now, here's what happened. MagnaCut came along, and it's got some really interesting properties to it. It does something unexpected and very counterintuitive. And as I experimented with it, I wasn't comfortable with it. So I kind of came slow. I was sneaking up on its performance. So what happened was when we initially launched MagnaCut, we backed off on the hardness a little bit because it just spooked me. I was like, I don't know, man. I'd rather have it a tiny bit softer than as hard as they're saying, because typically as hard as they're saying, these tips chip and the edges break and it causes me lots of problems. So I went with something I know. I got it to a hardness I like. Now, there's a lot more data now, and there's been a lot more people using it. And now, you know, our MagnaCut's 63 on the Rockwell scale instead of 59 like I did it originally. It's now 63. I use a very...
Yours is.
Yeah. And the stuff coming out today, it's he treated it 21. It's austenitized at 2150. And then we do a cryo, and then we do 2 draws at 350, and we get a 63 HRC out of it. That's pretty standard. But I just didn't jump there right out of the gate. What's that?
But that what you're saying is, if I'm understanding, and Greg, please bear with me, because this whole thing, I'm a little different, and this whole process is a learning thing for me, the channel, the whole deal. So what you're basically saying is you've worked your way up. You did something you were comfortable at and just worked your way up from there to a 63.
Yeah, and I talked to Laren about it on the phone. Yeah. Okay. And it drives knife nerds absolutely out of their fucking minds. You know, they're like, "Oh, why would you do that?" And the guy says to me, I get these kind of things. You would never buy a Ferrari that doesn't have the max performance engine. You would never buy a peak performance race car that has a detuned engine. And I go, that's not fucking true. I've got sports cars. They detune sports cars engines all the fucking time for reliability. Are you kidding me? Every car you ever buy has been detuned from the race engine parent that it comes from. Why? For reliability, for consistency, because they don't know what people are going to do when it gets out in there in the wild. Every engine in a Ferrari or a Porsche is detuned from its max capability. Every one. Every Ford Mustang you buy, the motor in it, it's detuned from what its capabilities are. So people are basically making my argument for me. They're saying, yes, it's exactly like a high-performance sports car. And what you see is over the course of the first few years of launch, they work their way into the horsepower. They increase performance. It helps with their sales. It's part of their sales matrix. But it's their reliability. They get thousands of these cars, lots of RPMs, and they get some track record, and they start feeling comfortable. It's the same thing.
That's a great analogy. I like how you started basically right off the production line, just kind of testing the grounds on the Magna Cut, and now you're at 63 HRC on the Magna Cut, more or less. And
I was sneaking up on it. The thing is, everybody got their panties in a bunch and said I was ripping people off, and I'm like, God damn, guys. If you get around knife makers, now I've sat at a table with 7 famous big company knife makers having dinner, and this is the famous thing. Somebody comes and says, hey, boss, I want to make a change. Can we change this screw? And we all go, oh, my God, don't change anything. Because knives are crazy. You could change one little thing, and they just don't work right anymore.
Right.
So we're a little bit, especially the bigger you get, the more you're inclined to be on the conservative end of big changes or new metals. And look, as it turns out, Magna Cut is the only metal here on planet Earth, third rock from the sun, I've ever heard of that is tougher at 63 Rockwell than it is at 60. Never even heard of such a thing.
Wow.
It's fucking bananas. Now,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Super cool. I just didn't feel comfortable right away going to warp speed. I wanted to kind of sneak up on it.
I respect that, though. I respect that. I like how you approached it, without a doubt.
Well, you have a customer base you're responsible to, so I think you did the right thing. You know what I mean? That's the way I feel. You did it the smart way. I would go with you on that 100%. I don't. You got to be comfortable.
When you launch the brand new 991 turbo Carrera Porsche, they don't come out year one with 1,100 horsepower. It's 525. Right. And when the fleet's got 6 or 7 million miles on it, all of a sudden you can buy some upgrades for that extra horsepower, and the new models have it. They're just working their way up on it, seeing what's breaking and what causes them problems. And listen, I'm not a one-guy knife maker. I mean, there's 50 people here making knives at a breakneck pace, and I'm very, very cautious. I would rather have a knife go out, and guys are going to freak out about this, 2% below its metallurgical peak performance in an area that I'm familiar with, than go out me searching for peak performance on a brand new steel on the first model I put out and find out they break all the time. So so you learn with experience. I kind of sneak up on it, and it's okay.
How many models do you have in Magna Cut right
now? Well, I'm not offering any models in Magna Cut. I'm only doing special projects in it. Okay. And now, as it is, I've made friends with it, and I like it. But it does some stuff that's counterintuitive, and it anneals at too soft a temperature. When we draw it, it's at too low a temperature, so that I can't do PVD on it. So I can't do any of them black.
Right.
Okay. So like for a tactical knife maker, I got to be able to do black.
Right. It's going with it's out of the wheelhouse a little bit of your knives. I got you.
So it's a really cool metal. Like on my ASK line, I don't know if you guys are familiar with my ASK line. Are you?
I haven't really had my hands on it. I've seen it.
Okay, so like this is my little, 130 years of dominated by a company out of Switzerland, and I've come up with this model, and we've made it work. This knife, the first couple thousand of these are all Magna Cut. and they'll be the first, I don't know, the first 400 of them, they're at 60. The next 500 of them, they're at 61. The next 1,000 of them are at 62, and the ones we make now are at 63.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, so I just a little conservative, and I'm like an old man. I thought I got to tell you guys, I carry this thing all the time, and it's, if you get one of these in your hand, I would love to see you guys do a review on this knife. Super cool. Got a great half stop. It's got really nice American walk and talk that you want from a knife. It's got tools in it. It's modular, titanium hardware, titanium liners, 100% made in America. 100%.
Awesome.
Not
It's
sold.
badass.
It's awesome. It's my
badass,
favorite thing.
man.
I'm in love with it.
It really is.
JR, we got
I
to get our
like
hands
the handle scope. That whole thing's dope. So let me ask you this. You mentioned tactical when we first started talking.
Yeah.
What to use tactical? I know obviously black, but what says tactical, Greg Medford?
Honestly, anything you can shove into someone's neck or pry open a box with, or the K-bar, as ubiquitous a knife as it is a knife of a design during a time when there are material and money constraints. It's not a great knife. The design, the rat tail design with the leather stacked handle, I've broken more of them than not broken, okay? But it served its purpose. It was meant for a time when your average life expectancy was a couple months at war, and you were going to storm up a beach and a bunch of guys were going to get killed. Just get there and get a knife, right?
Yeah.
I think when form is trumped by function, it's a tool. And when the tool is focused on field use as opposed to city use, I think it's a little more tactical. And I hate to be so squishy and broad with you, but you take most knives and you paint them black, they look tactical.
So I'm dying. I know you got one near you. Let's see one of your fixed blades, because I know you got one close by, right?
Well, I mean, I got this one I just showed you.
But you did one, which, that's dope.
I got another one. Hold on. I got this one.
That's it.
That is awesome. Look at that grind on that. That is amazing. That is amazing.
That's badass, man.
I'm gonna stab the fuck out of
what kind of steel you have on there?
What's that?
Steel.
I got. We can stab them up.
That's CPM 3V.
3V.
And then I've got this guy here. Asking knife guy if he's got a couple knives laying around.
Well, that was the point. That's now, is that PVD coated?
Yeah.
And that's the one you're sending me for review, correct? Just to clear that up.
No idea.
I love that, man. That's now. Do you do all your coatings in house, Greg?
Well,
do you do your coating in house?
I looked at doing it, but that's actually a product called Armalube. It's not actually PVD or DLC. It's part of the cathodic arc technology family of coatings, where you hang your whatever you want coated in an autoclave, and you charge it electrically, and then you have a sacrificial cathode, and you create a plasma. You introduce gas and create a plasma, and it bonds to the outer molecular layer of your molecules.
Right.
It's like $1 million to bring a small chamber in my facility, and it's really a white lab coat kind of job. And I just said, man, I've got everything in house. I don't fucking want that in house.
Right.
So I send that out. Now the guys who do that for me, they make parts for the United States submarine program. So they're the best in the business at coating, and it's different technology because it doesn't create a semi-porous microscopic surface. It actually creates a vapor barrier, and it actually ends up making your knives very, very rust resistant, because it was developed for the saline environment.
That coatings is my background, powder coating and that kind of thing. So I understand that part, and it makes sense. And I was just curious. I knew you did most of your stuff in house, even though I guessed wrong on several things. But I thought I was curious about your powder. Now they do all your surface prep. They do all of that for you.
We get them pretty surface prepped. We do a blasting and tumbling and cleaning, and they do a deep vibratory clean, and then they do the coating.
Okay.
A lot
Now,
of people
when they
don't
come
understand.
back,
A lot of people don't understand when you talk in this family of cathodic arc, which is DLC, PVD, Armalube, these types of things. This cathodic arc technology has almost zero mass to it, zero dimensionality. Right. So thus for us in the knife making business, we're always chasing these crazy tiny tolerances. You don't make a knife that's got 0.2 tolerance in the chassis and throw 2 thou of coatings on it. So it's really it's meant to be a kind of dimensionally stable product for us that's becomes part of the steel and is very hard to get off.
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks,
well, you
Eric.
about have to do that. Powder just doesn't work. I've seen people try it. It doesn't work. So you have to go to something like you're doing. And I am familiar with the PVD and stuff which is cool. Now, when you get them back, do you grind them then?
Grind what?
Do they tape all that? Like when you send the knife off to get coated, when it comes back, have they taken care of the edge, or do you?
No. We send them out dull. We never send stuff out.
Okay.
And then when it gets back, we put a mirror popping edge on it.
Yeah, that was my question. I didn't know how you'd handle that part.
Yeah.
So that's cool. How many do they do for you at the time?
Oh, I don't know. That's I hate. I'll tell you, I don't fly at that altitude anymore. It's a lot of flow, so I don't get my brain's only got so much bandwidth that I can handle. Well,
I got you. So we talked a little bit before we went live. You said you were at about what, 1/3 veterans?
Yeah,
because I know that's big to you.
Yeah,
that's big to you. So
veterans. I mean, listen, as a infantry combat Marine Corps vet, I will tell you, veterans are the biggest pain in the ass, and they're also my people. So there is nobody who can tell a veteran, quit your fucking whining. You're not a hero anymore. We're just regular old Americans. Let's get back to work. And so I've had the great pleasure of helping a lot of veterans when we had both wars in Iraq and Afghanistan going, kind of re-enter back into America, because they could come to a place where there was kind of an old gunny hanging around who kind of knew how they spoke, and I knew how to speak to them. And at some point you can go, okay, bullshit with your PTSD. Enough already. Quit fucking telling your war story. We're making knives. So there's a little bit of you can do that when you've been there a little bit, and you can help guys kind of relaunch and settle back down into America. The Greatest Generation did it with 2 martinis and picket fences, and they sold insurance and built the goddamn world. So we can do it. It's not that big a deal.
My grandfather was in World War II, and when he come back, he born in Mississippi, and when they moved back to get work, they come to Florida. He helped. I think he helped. They laid tile in Marine land and did something else. So he was a hard-working guy. My grandfather was kind of it for me. He was an old tough guy. He was a big man for World War II, but he was cool, man. And I'm glad that you do that, and I'm glad you give them a place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because that's awesome.
I've literally had dudes standing around in a circle where a guy says, well, that's when that dude fucking shot me in the leg and my guy in front of me got killed. And the next guy next to him says, well, you pussy, you should have helped him so he didn't get killed.
These are the conversations that are going on.
The conversations here you go. This guy's like, well, the first time I shot that dude, I hit him, and then all of a sudden these bullets are around me, and someone goes, you pussy, you laid down on the ground. It's just the gallows humor and dark humor of veterans. It's fun to be around if you're familiar with it. And then civilians stand around and they're like, what did you just say? So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. That's damn funny, I got to say. Oh man. But listen, I'm surrounded by your knives. I mean, listen, it's great. I mean, I've S45, S35, D2, S390. Those are pretty much the steals on all these knives for the most part. Um, JR, tell me if I'm wrong. But the one consistent thing, it's nice to have great steels, great edge retention, toughness, hardness, all that stuff. The one thing, the constant with me is the I mean, I love big knives. I love your knives because I love big knives. I just love them. Okay. But the constant for me is just the handles, the comfort of the handles I'm in love with. That's what my favorite thing is about your knives is the fact, and they carry well. There's a lot of criticism. Some people have said, oh, they're too big. They don't carry well in your pocket. I think they carry incredibly in the pockets. I mean, I could fit my phone. I could fit. It's just they're fine. And your clips are fantastic. I love your freaking clips.
This is how you can tell if somebody has never held my knives or they're a chat room warrior. If they say all his knives are D2 and they're overpriced. I mean, we don't make many D2 knives, let me tell you, and we haven't for years. Second thing, if they say they're too big and you can't carry them well, okay, a Praetorian tie may be too big for guys who wear seersucker pants, but it's not true. They're being carried by almost 100,000 people, so they just get carried. I carry them every day. They're carryable. It's crazy. And then the other thing is when guys say, "Oh, they're just pry bars; they don't cut." I mean, what's your experience? You guys touch knives all the time. What do you think?
They cut. I mean,
that's bullshit. Yeah. They cut. I can prove this cut. I promise you, there's not a more used Medford Praetorian in the world than this. I'll bet you money. The thing is this too. I'll go out here and do a video right now. God damn it! Well, I'll cut everything. But here's the deal, Greg. Here's how you know nobody's ever carried one. Because that's the first statement is, well, it's a pocket tank. You can't. I carry it if I'm not now at work. I sandblast and I powder coat. So I'm not carrying a Medford S90V. It'd be like going and throwing it the sand at the beach. Yeah. But on the weekends, I carry it. When I'm not at work, I carry it. I don't even know it's in my damn pocket. I mean, it rides well, and it works.
This is a mini Praetorian, Scab. This is the mini.
Let me see it.
The mini Praetorian.
Oh, is that slim?
It's a mini Praetorian.
I think Greg said he was giving me one of those too. That guy will give you anything.
This is nice. This is a great carry. Actually, I have my second box. I'm still getting through my first set of knives in the series, but my second series is going to have more slimmer carries. This is one of my favorites. I mean, this is the what's this? The Smooth Criminal.
Yeah.
The button lock. I mean, it's got the rear, okay, and it's got the button. This is a fidget master. I mean, I absolutely love this knife. And this is, I think, S45 VN, S45 steel.
What's it say on it?
I don't think it says anything on it.
Yeah, there'll be a
it does say. My eyes are not that good. I don't have my glasses. I think it says 45. Yeah.
Don't cut yourself, Joe, for the love of God.
But this is definitely in terms of a fidget. I mean, I actually last night I was kind of just playing with this, watching Netflix, and just constantly just opening and closing it. But this is a great carry. I love this thing.
We call that master blading.
Yeah, exactly. Grateful Panic. What's up, brother?
You know, this one too, the M48.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, fantastic.
Hey, Greg, would you mind showing that ASK one more time? Somebody come in a little late and they were like, did I miss the ASK Shore Shop?
Sure.
Would you mind showing it one more time for us?
This is the ASK now. This one has the new Porsche F1 livery on it for the new Porsche racing team, but it's got the tombstone ends. I don't have a plain one sitting. Oh, you know what? I got a couple plain ones on my counter. Let me go grab them. Hold on.
Grugs, this is the Tanto. This is the Marauder. This is the Marauder, Grugs.
Freedom Frog Turtle.
All right, Joe.
Life, bro.
Joe, it's Marauder.
I know I don't pronounce it right, but you know that's just
I
I butcher everything I say.
He sure don't.
It's my router. That's where I put that little groove around boards. Hey, so I'll show you in the initial color, which is called the Jefferson. So it's got a couple things you'd see. Our logo. I don't know if you can see. Let me see if you can see that. See that logo right there?
Yeah.
So that's the Medford Crest, and inside of it is a musket and a hammer. And then on the packaging, it says 200. It says this. Let me see here. It says, oh, here we go. Disrupting the world with freedom and innovation since 1776. You're welcome. So it's basically it's got a little Betsy Ross flag down here. These handles are made in Scottsdale, Arizona. The liners are titanium 6.4 tie. They're actually stamped here in town. The Swiss hardware that you see on it is all titanium. That's titanium mined here in the United States, turned in Florida. The blades on these are CPM steels, either S45 or Magna Cut. We're actually making a bunch of flat.
Sweet looking like.
We're making a bunch of flat ground, but this is a hollow ground blade. The springs are also whatever the steel of your knife and tools is the same steel in your springs. These are fully disassemblable and modular. They have a half stop like Americans like for their walk and talk. It's got our opening model has got a chisel with a knurled tapered grabber and quarter turn. This is a actual no kidding wood chisel. I find it to be one of the most useful tools I've ever seen on a pocket knife for all those times where you're trying to cut forward and you end up snapping the tip on your blade. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And then I'll show you the bottle opener. The bottle opener, I know this sounds really goofy, but I spent a bunch of time. I wanted to make a bottle opener that just scared the cap off of a bottle. And this thing, it just works so well. And I've given them the bartenders and said, hey, try out my bottle opener. You know, bartenders open a lot of bottles. And they're like, oh, wow, this thing's really cool. So I drove everybody crazy with the bottle opener. They thought I was batshit crazy. So they've all got 3 tools. You can also take out one of the layers and make it a single stack with just the blade. You can make it 3 layers if you get the long pivot hardware, and you can put in 3 blades or 2 blades and 2 tools or 1 blade and 4 tools. So it's very American. You can personalize it and make it the way you want. And then we offer it in the Washington model in OD, the Alcacay, named after a Medal of Honor winning Native American from the Four Corners region of Arizona. And they have different tools and kind of different themes. So super cool knife. I'm fucking in love with it.
Awesome. Listen, I got to ask this question.
I'm not a slip joint guy, but that's badass.
That is nice. All right, Eric Hussein, Samurai Bird. I heard you guys loud and clear, and I actually have to ask you the question as well. Okay. First of all, do you have any Nihantos still in your possession?
Do I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course.
But before we get into that, do you have any plans, or would you have any plans on producing katana on the Medford name?
No. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I
want an American-made katana.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you something. There's a movie that is getting ready to be produced, and it is one of the cult classics of all time that uses a katana. And I've been asked to design the katana for the movie, and it's a big deal. And I just did some knives for a knife movie that's coming out next year. Major John Woo production. Cool. And then this next thing coming out, I got 2 movies coming out. One of them's got a samurai sword in it that I designed. I'm in the running. Like, I'm the guy they asked to make the knife, the sword for the movie. So I'm working on a samurai sword project for a samurai movie.
That's mad cool. That's mad cool.
But it's going to be me. It's going to be it will not be there's no need to have some crazy lunatic American make an ancient sword. There are guys making ancient swords. Right. Okay. I'm going to do my modern take on it with modern materials and a modern twist and more of a kind of killing, fighting kind of tool rather than an elegant. The samurai sword really didn't evolve very much. It has the Japanese are not known for their dynamic change. They're known for ancient consistency.
Consistency. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So it didn't change much with the times. It didn't evolve much, which means they got it right in the 13th century? Probably not. So I think there are innovations to make to the concept that fit the modern kind of battlescape a little bit, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So that's the little gap that the Japanese left me. Their inability to attack very quickly with the times is a strength, and it's a weakness sometimes, and it leaves me a little opportunity to do something cool.
That'll be dope, man.
If you get that deal, and I pray and hope that you do, because that is so freaking awesome to get one of your designs in there. You got to consider it, man. I have so many of my sword buddies that would love to be able to buy American, buy it here in the States, buy katana in here in the States.
Yeah.
There's really no other options. I mean, you got Walter Soros, but those swords are unattainable in terms of what they're pricing them at.
How about the Bukai Trading Company swords? How are those?
They're okay.
But they're not made in the U.S. You want a U.S. made one.
Yeah, a lot of people really, I've had that question asked me a million times. I mean, I review katana all the time. They're doing great jobs with these swords, great performers, great fit and finish. Some of them, not all of them.
Yeah.
And people would ask me, like, where can I buy an American-made katana? So I'll point them to Walter Soros. But, his swords are, $5,000, $10,000 each.
Yep.
So it's a little, unattainable for most people. So if you can come up with a design that your take on it, let's call it tactical, maybe a tactical Medford style katana, I would be first online. I think a couple of guys in the room would too.
Well, we'll see what happens. They already told me that they're gonna reserve the rights for foreign mass production, and I said that's cool. I just want rights for the original in production. So if we get around to making them, we may do a bunch of them. Yeah. I may do like 100 of them, just commemorative for the movie kind of thing. But they'll be real fucking swords.
Yeah. Well, even European sword, any type of a sword model you can make up, one-handed swords. I would love to see Medford, getting into that market here in the States would be phenomenal for me anyway. I know a lot of people agree with me.
Yeah, I got a weird thing about business. I have a tendency when I was fighting and training fighters, I like to take the fight to where somebody else is not already awesome. If I find out someone's got a great ground game, I'm gonna kind of try to get a distance fight out of them. Or if I find out they're just a talented striker, I'm going to try and grind them a little bit. And when it's in business, I'm the same way. There are people out there, like my out the front knife that's coming out, it's unique and it's special. And I didn't want to do what so many people did, which was basically a knockoff Ultra Tech. We're bringing new stuff to the table. So anytime I come out with something, I want to jump into look, everybody who's making cool knives, they're friends of mine. So I don't want to come making something just like one of my buddies, be a dick move of all time. Right. So I try to bring some creativity and
the Medford take. That's what I'm saying. Like as a customer, I'm just talking to you as a customer. If somebody's requesting something of you, I respect your take on how you approach making your knives, how you approach making your knives in your own aspect, in your own vision, and not seeing what other people do. I love that. So like a Medford take on swords, on let's say Viking swords or a katana or something like that. I think that would be awesome.
You know what I found out? I did one of those genetic tests, and my mom, she's half French and she's half Greek, and my dad, who thought he was Heinz 57 and Irish and Indian and all kinds of Pocahontas bullshit, turns out he's fucking lily white cracker Viking. So this is hysterical. So my mom, she's half Northern French from Normandy area, okay? It turns out the Icelandic Vikings must have fucked and had kids with half the world, because I'm 85% Icelandic Viking and 15% smattering of Greek, Russian, and Moroccan. Now, that's my Greek grandfather, okay? How does a guy who knows his lineage be 85% Viking? And I only say this because I found out I'm Icelandic Viking, not some obtuse Northern European thing. They're like, no, Icelandic Viking. It's a little tiny island. So I've got a thing for cutlery. When I eat and I like my food, I have a tendency to bang my knife on the table. Something's wrong with me. And I thought I was French and Irish, and it turns out I think I'm just a Viking lunatic. So everything I do is a take on like how to storm the shores and take everyone over.
That's awesome.
That just means your ancestors were part of the Varangian Guard. That's all.
There you go. There we go. Okay.
Because I had a guy not too long ago. I'd said something about being from Normandy, and somebody said, "Oh, you got some Viking lineage," and somebody was like, "The French are from Normandy." I said, "Yeah, there was a guy named Rollo who kind of went there that was kind of one of the baddest ass Vikings of all time. That's where Norman." So you get all the wondrous things on the internet.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Being a knife manufacturer owner, do you just walk through one time or every now and then just pick up and I'm keeping that bitch and put it in my pocket, or pick up a knife and go play with it, or you know what I'm saying? You just see one and go, I want to carry that for a week or two.
Well,
because
I carry like early models of everything a lot. And really, everything that's made is sold. So I don't get to go through and pick stuff for me ever. Really what I do is if I want stuff, like there are about 1,000 knives a year made here at the company that are just for me. So I have 1,000 knives made for me. And what I do with those is creative ideas, and I let my team play because I want to kind of squeeze their creative juices. And that 1,000 goes to the public. But they have my initials on them as they come through the building. And that means if something, like somebody brought me something epic the other day, and I was like, holy fuck. And they're like, Greg's got to see this. But it was one of my initial knives that kind of runs through. But it's going to go to a customer. I don't take anything from me anymore. There's nothing that makes me happier than seeing guys carry my knives and like them. And honestly, there's nothing that hurts me more. You could punch me in the face and I'll be like, ah, you fucking pussy. Come on, hit me harder. But if someone doesn't like my knives, especially if they've actually had one, it hurts me. It hurts me a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's because you have pride in what you do.
Pride. It's all about.
I think people miss that. I think people miss that. I think people see Greg Medford, but they miss how much pride you actually have in what you do. And talking to you in this past hour, over an hour, it's apparent that you still have a fire and a passion for knives. And I appreciate
I'll tell you something. I don't want to like slap you down to correct you, but I don't have pride at all. I have a second generation immigrants, grandparents who survived the Great Depression, fear of loss and poverty that drives me. I'm afraid of not working hard. I'm afraid of something happening while I'm not working. So I work, and I work a lot of times out of fear. And it's a deep emotional thing that I can't get around. And so when someone doesn't like my knives, what they're rejecting is my horseman heritage Texas grandfather that I learned about cleaning an animal with. They're rejecting my pragmatic Greek grandfather and his desire for toughness and functionality. My grandmother, who was always working around the home, making sure she had a beautiful home. She was painting or changing a tree. She was always working. And it rejects my parents who worked with their hands. So when people reject my knives, it's not my pride. I'm not proud at all. I keep my head down. I'm never
not
proud.
In that sense.
Yeah. What I mean is
not in that sense. Let's call it passion.
Yeah. And what happens is I feel like I put my love and of my family and my country into the things we make. And when people reject them, it hurts me. I mean, I've almost cried over it. I'm actually pretty sensitive about it. And I just, I've disengaged from the social media world because I can't be where there's so many mean people.
Right. Right. Well, listen,
That,
not
well, you know
trying
what?
to.
I think passion's the right word, and it comes through, man. It's not pride like arrogance. That's not what I meant.
Yeah.
So
I'm
saying that passion, that fire.
Yeah.
You wanted to correct me. I get it. It's okay. I'm a sensitive guy too. That's all right. No, I appreciate it, man, and I appreciate that you work. That resonates with me, man. I bust my fat ass 12 hours a day in the sun sandblasting. So when I hear somebody loving to work, I want to help that person. I want to support that person. I want to be with that. You know, that's where I want to be, because that's what that to me is being the American worker.
You
That's
know,
it.
I've got, I don't know, 25, 26, 28,000 square feet behind me here full of knife company. Okay. And I got 50 families that rely on me. And I'm sitting here at 6 o'clock. We closed at 4:30. We work a 10-hour workday, 4 days a week. I put us on 410 so that everyone could have 3 days a week with their family and have a better lifestyle. And I'm here at 6 o'clock because I want to talk about the company, and I want to make sure that I represent our brand and make sure people know about us and stay relevant. As an older guy in knife making, I don't want to be irrelevant. And the way you stay relevant is you outwork everybody. And so I'm here working, and that's what I do.
Listen,
I love it.
It's just talking about the knives, not because not because of your pretty face here. I got about 15 of your knives here, and I got to tell you, I'm blown away. I'm impressed. I'm impressed at every single one of them. I'm impressed at how they perform, how they feel, how they sound, everything about them. And it's just, and I actually can't wait to really go through all of these knives, get the reviews in, test them, do my thing. But yeah, you got my support just for the simple reason that I absolutely love all these knives. I really do. I love carrying them. I love everything about them.
That's enough, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And if I say anything to anybody, first of all, thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the guys that are sitting out there who are into this and they engage their brains and their minds and their wallets. And frankly, I could never even approach any of this without the fantastic team that we've spent so many years building and training and working together. It's a lot of work getting 50 people to all row the same direction on a boat. And it's, clear vision and acceptance in the marketplace. I checked yesterday. We have 16,000 knives currently on order. It's a lot of work, and we're graced to have so much work. We just go as fast as we can. And I know I say and do some controversial things sometimes, but I feel like the American experiment requires us all to push the boundaries and speak our truth and grind up against one another and bump into each other, and the competing marketplace of ideas will get the best things to the American citizens and the consumer. And I'm part of that capitalist group of people who wants to make the world a better place to work.
Very, very well said. Very well said.
Well, I can tell you this: you've won me over, and I've never been against you, but just meeting you, it's given me a new view.
Thanks.
And knowing how you support your people and know that's a big deal, man. That's a big deal, and I appreciate your time. I know saying that people say that, but I appreciate your time, dude, so much. Thank you for being here.
Your after hours time, especially.
We don't want to tie you up long. Do you have any final thoughts? I don't want to tie you up long because you've been gracious and stayed with us. Tell me your vision.
Well, I think about the knife business as a whole, not just Greg and his little company. And I think as we talk about knife community, I think it's important. I think we all need to be radically tolerant of being radical, because this country is so awesome, and it's being driven into the rocks by spending and irresponsibility of both parties. And I think it's incumbent upon us to not all hate each other because everyone's told us we should hate each other. I think it's okay for men to have opinions about being men and women to have opinions about this and gays to be mad at that and black people to be mad at this or in love with that and Mexicans to say this or that. We've all got to rub up against each other and bang into each other and figure each other out. And as I've been doing this great experiment now, this American experiment for 52 years, I find when I talk to people of different color, creeds, religions, and countries of origin, they have one thing in common. They want their kids to have a better life. They want to live freer. And the thing about knives is they're empowering. The same way you watch a person who maybe has been bullied, you watch them shoot a gun, and you can see their posture change, and you see them like kind of like be emboldened by it. And you see new gun owners as they become shooters, as I see people move here from other states, and I see them breathe liberty, and they stand differently, and they talk differently, and their bumper stickers change. And they quit their job and go start an enterprise and do the great American experiment. Knives are part of that lineage of rugged independence. They're part of that frontier spirit. They're part of that self-reliance. I'm not going to call somebody to help me. I'm going to pull that person out of that car. And I'm proud to be a part of that, giving somebody a little more confidence. You know, tough knives are like great feeling guns, are like good boots. They're like a good pair of fitting jeans, a jacket that allows you to move around well. Good gear makes you perform better as a human being. And I want people to perform better, and I want our country to be better. And I do it one knife at a time. And I just hope that the people who get them appreciate it. And the vast, overwhelming majority of the time, they quietly reach out to me and say thanks to me. And that's what I do it for.
Yeah.
Well, I don't do anything quietly. So here, thank one. And I'm going to ask, because we've got a shit ton of content creators in the room. Guys, when this posts on Blade Talk, because I'm going to share it on my channel, I'm going to ask everybody to share this. Because I'm telling you.
Everybody share it.
I'm telling you all, I want people to see this Greg. And I think we all have a responsibility to do that. So if you would, share it. I'm going to share it on Choir Boys Cutlery. Joe's going to share it on Steel Force and Fire. And man, listen, honest to God, thank you for being here.
Appreciate
I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, so much respect for you, brother. A lot of respect.
I appreciate everybody's support. Really do.
Yeah, everybody in the room pretty much is all, you know, with the thank you, with the appreciation for your knives. And a lot of people, but you won them over also in the chat room. People who have never had a Medford knife in your hand, and after hearing you speak, they're looking to get into Medford knives, and that's a great thing. And I wish that kind of just spreads out and just excels and keeps it going. But yeah,
we'll be here for you when ready. Thank you.
Definitely.
All right, everything cool. Greg said you just killed Joe. So sing us out because we love you. God knows we do. And what's your hey, Joe, give me one more knives you got around you because you've changed that sumbitch about 12 times. How many knives you got, Joe?
Hey, are you guys done with me?
I got, let me see.
Are you guys done with me?
1, 2, 3.
Am I still
Do you
on?
need to go? You need to go. Thank you.
I got to go cook dinner.
Okay.
Hey,
is it okay if I bounce?
Brother, thank you.
No,
yeah, we'll stay
yes,
in
sir.
much.
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Right.
Thanks,
care,
Greg. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Hope to have you on again one day soon.
Anytime, man. Let me know. You want to talk anything, I'll get on and rumble with you guys. Thanks,
Definitely. Man. Thanks, Greg. Have a good night.
Appreciate you, brother.
See you.
All right.
He's probably
awesome.
God. Yeah. Hey, guys, again, thank y'all for being in the room. Joe, awesome job, man. Great show. Joe, seriously, man, love you. Thank you for the work put in. Guys, just so you all know, and this needs to be said publicly too, Joe's the one that stepped out and got Greg. Joe went after it. So, man, thank you for that. I appreciate that. This has been phenomenal. So, Joseph, end us. Boys, we'll see you on the next Grateful Panic. Thank you for stopping by, Javon. Jerbs, I love you. Maurice, Sing us home,
Tony, everybody in the room. Sorry, guys, we didn't get to the chat. It was just a great conversation with Greg. I appreciate all your comments.
Shane Gables.
Obviously, Shane, Jerbs, thanks for the moderators. Jerbs, you were moderating. I think I put JR as a moderator too. We didn't have much spam in the room unless I didn't see it. It looked like it was a pretty clean.
No, guys, y'all did a phenomenal job.
You guys
man.
did great.
Keith,
You guys did great.
did an
Rusty,
awesome job.
you know, Garen, everybody in the room, I really sincerely appreciate it. And guys, please, like Scab said,
Love
let's
your
share this
frog.
video. Let's put it on your posts. Let's get this out there. Everybody needs to hear Greg talk. And it was a great live. It's definitely one. And listen, Scab, when you approached me about doing a Blade Talk together, this is actually the vision that we had in terms of Blade Talk, to have people like Greg Medford on, you know, to talk about his product, talk about American made and all that stuff. And this was a great live. I'm glad it kind of just surfaced. It happened and it worked out really, really well. Thank you. All right. So we're going to close this off.
Gary, good seeing you, buddy.
Close this off, guys. Thanks for everybody joining us in the room. Thrasher's Garage, Brandon, thanks for joining us. Grateful Panic. I wish I could go in and talk to each and every one of you. We've been on for a little while. Let's share this broadcast, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for sitting through. Thanks, Greg Medford, for joining us. And we'll peace out, everybody. We'll see you when we see you on next reviews and next Blade Talk. Have a good one, guys. Ciao.